The arena floor was slick with alien blood, and Maya Chen wiped her blade clean with the kind of casual indifference that made seasoned warriors flinch. Around her, the crowd of Thackeray spectators roared their approval, their 6 arms waving banners that proclaimed her as Earth's champion. What they didn't know was that Maya had never wanted this job. "Another pathetic display," she muttered, stepping over the twitching form of her latest opponent. The Kelvin fighter had been twice her size, with natural armor plating and poisonous spines. But size meant nothing when your enemy fought like an amateur. Maya had ended the match in under 3 minutes. The announcer's voice boomed across the stadium, speaking in a universal trade language that had become standard across the galaxy. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all species, Earth's representative has claimed another victory. Maya Chen remains undefeated after 47 consecutive battles." Maya rolled her eyes. 47. She'd been counting too, but for different reasons. Each victory brought her closer to earning enough credits to buy her way off this miserable rock and back to Earth, back to a life that didn't involve being a dancing monkey for alien entertainment. The crowd began to disperse, but Maya noticed a group of figures in the VIP section that hadn't moved. Thackeray nobility, by the look of their elaborate ceremonial armor and the way lesser beings scraped and bowed around them. One of them, a massive specimen with scars crisscrossing his carapace, was staring directly at her. "Wonderful," Maya said under her breath. "More fans." Her manager, a nervous little Pishian named Zek, scurried over with his usual bundle of contracts and credit statements. His antenna twitched with excitement. "Maya, incredible performance. The betting pools were heavily against you because of the size difference, but you showed them what human ingenuity can accomplish." "Yeah, sure, ingenuity." Maya sheathed her weapon and started walking toward the exit tunnel. "How much closer are we to my buyout?" Zek's antenna drooped slightly. "Well, after the arena's cut my management fee, equipment costs, medical insurance, and facility usage charges, we're at about 68% of your target." Maya stopped walking. 68%? I've been fighting for 8 months straight, Zek. 8 months of bleeding and sweating, and nearly dying for the entertainment of creatures who think humans are barely above pets. I understand your frustration, but the economics of gladiatorial combat are complex. The Thackeray Syndicate takes a substantial portion of all winnings, and there are numerous overhead expenses that... Spare me the lecture. Maya resumed walking, her boots echoing off the tunnel walls. "Just tell me when I can get off this planet. At your current rate of earnings, assuming no major injuries or extended recovery periods, approximately 4 more months." 4 more months. Maya had survived worse, but the thought of spending another season in this Hell's Gate made her jaw clench. The Thackeray had conquered half the galaxy through a combination of advanced technology and sheer brutality, but their favorite pastime was watching other species tear each other apart for sport. They discovered humans 3 years ago and had been fascinated by their adaptability and tactical thinking. What the Thackeray hadn't expected was that some humans would be very, very good at their games. Maya reached her assigned quarters, a sparse room barely large enough for a bed, and a small hygiene unit. She was about to key in her access code when she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy footsteps. "Maya Chen." She turned slowly, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. The scarred Thackeray from the VIP section stood in the hallway, flanked by 2 smaller attendants. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His carapace bore the intricate scarification patterns that marked him as a high-ranking noble, and his 4 primary arms were augmented with cybernetic enhancements that probably cost more than most starships. Lord. Maya let the word hang in the air. She'd learned that making Thackeray introduce themselves first was usually the safest approach. "Vracto," the alien supplied. His voice was deep and resonant, with the kind of authority that came from never being questioned. First Executor of the Northern Territories, Admiral of the 3rd Battle Fleet, and current holder of 17 gladiatorial titles. Impressive resume. Maya kept her tone neutral. "What can I do for you, Lord Vracto?" The Thackeray's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Direct. "I appreciate that quality in a warrior. I have a proposition for you, human." "I'm listening." "In 3 days, There will be a special exhibition match. Not here in this provincial arena, but in the Grand Coliseum on Thraktos Prime. The stakes will be significant. Maya felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Thraktos Prime was a Thrakkery homeworld, and the Grand Coliseum was where the Empire's most elite gladiators fought. It was also where careers ended permanently. "What kind of stakes?" she asked. Vraktol's secondary arms gestured dismissively. "Financial considerations are trivial. If you win, you earn your freedom immediately. Full citizenship rights, transport to any world of your choosing, and a substantial settlement to ensure comfortable living for the remainder of your natural lifespan." It was everything Maya had dreamed of hearing. Too good to be true, which meant there was a catch the size of a moon. "And if I lose? Then you die spectacularly, and I claim an interesting trophy for my collection." There it was. Maya had heard rumors about Thrakkery nobles who collected the preserved remains of exceptional gladiators. Apparently, Lord Vraktol was one of them. "Who's my opponent?" Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew. Vraktol's mandibles spread wide in what was definitely meant to be a predatory smile. "Me!" The hallway fell silent, except for the distant sounds of the arena's cleaning crews. Maya stared at the alien lord, processing what she'd just heard. A Thrakkery noble, cybernetically enhanced and trained from birth in combat, wanted to fight a human gladiator in single combat. It was either the opportunity of a lifetime or an elaborate form of suicide. "Why?" Maya asked. "You could have me killed at any time. Why the theatrics?" "Because killing you in an alley would be wasteful," Vraktol replied. "You've impressed me, human. In all my years of observing gladiatorial combat, I've never seen a species adapt so quickly to our methods. Your tactical thinking is creative." "Creative? Right." Maya could feel her temper starting to rise. "You mean unpredictable. You mean we don't fight the way you expect us to." "Precisely." Vraktol stepped closer, and Maya caught a whiff of his alien scent. Something like ozone and metal. "Your species has a saying, does it not? About David and Goliath?" Maya almost laughed. "You know that story? I'm making my business to understand the psychology of species under Thrakkery rule. Your mythology is full of tales about small, clever heroes defeating larger, stronger opponents through wit and determination. It's quite charming, in a primitive sort of way." The condescension in his voice made Maya's vision go red around the edges. She'd spent months listening to aliens talk about humans like they were amusing pets, and she was getting very tired of it. "So you want to prove that David was just lucky," she said. "That when Goliath is expecting the stone, the little guy gets crushed." "Something like that." Vraktol's cyber-enhanced arms whirred softly as they flexed. "What do you say, champion of Earth? Will you face me in honorable combat?" Maya looked at the alien lord, at his scars, his enhancements, and his absolute confidence that he would be adding her remains to his collection. She thought about 4 more months of fighting in provincial arenas, of slowly earning enough credits to buy her freedom, while the Thrakkery treated her like a trained animal. Then she thought about the look on Vraktol's face when she proved him wrong. "I accept," she said, "but I have conditions." The alien's mandibles clicked again. "You're hardly in position to negotiate terms, human." "Oh, but I am." Maya smiled for the first time in weeks, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "See, you need me to agree to this fight. If I refuse, you get nothing. No spectacle, no trophy, no chance to prove that humans are just lucky primitives. You could kill me, sure, but that would make you look weak. A noble who has to resort to assassination instead of honest combat." Vraktol was silent for a long moment. "What are your conditions?" "Standard gladiatorial rules. No cybernetic enhancements, no powered armor, no exotic weapons. Just you, me, and whatever we can pick up in the arena." "Agreed. Anything else?" Maya pretended to think about it. "When I win, I want your personal assurance that no other human gladiators will be forced to fight against their will. Full citizenship and transport rights for any who want them. Confident, aren't you?" Vraktol's secondary arms gestured to his attendants. "Very well. I accept your terms. In 3 days, we settle this matter definitively." The alien lord turned and walked away, his heavy footsteps echoing down the corridor. Maya waited until he was out of sight before allowing herself to slump against her door. Her hands were shaking slightly, a reaction she hadn't experienced since her first fight in the arena. She just agreed to face a cybernetically enhanced alien warrior in single combat, with her freedom and the freedom of every other human gladiator riding on the outcome. It was either the bravest thing she'd ever done or the most spectacularly stupid. Probably both. Maya keyed in her access code and stepped into her quarters. 3 days to prepare for the fight of her life. 3 days to figure out how to kill something that was bigger, stronger, and better armed than anything she'd ever faced. She sat down on her narrow bed and began to plan. The first thing Maya did was request access to the arena's combat archives. Every fight was recorded for analysis and entertainment, and she spent the next 18 hours studying footage of Raktal's previous matches. The alien lord hadn't been exaggerating about his 17 titles. He was fast, precise, and utterly ruthless. But he was also predictable. Thackeray combat doctrine emphasized overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They were natural hunters, evolved from pack predators, and their fighting style reflected that heritage. Raktal was a master of conventional Thackeray techniques, but conventional was exactly what Maya was hoping for. She pulled up files on human gladiators who had faced Thackeray opponents, looking for patterns and weaknesses. Most humans try to match their opponent's strength, a losing strategy against beings who could literally tear them apart. The few who had succeeded used mobility, unpredictability, and environmental factors to their advantage. Maya made notes, cross-referencing Thackeray anatomy with combat techniques she'd learned in her previous life. Before becoming a gladiator, she'd been a military instructor, teaching close-quarters combat to human soldiers. That experience was about to become very relevant. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Maya tensed, then recognized Zek's distinctive tapping pattern. "Come in," she called. The Pishian scurried inside, his antenna practically vibrating with anxiety. "Maya, I've been hearing rumors. Please tell me you didn't accept a challenge from Lord Raktal." "Okay, I won't tell you that." Zek's antenna drooped. "This is madness. He's killed 14 opponents in exhibition matches. 14. And those were all experienced gladiators from warrior species. Relax, Zek. I know what I'm doing." "No, you don't." The little alien's voice cracked with emotion. "You're throwing your life away for what? Pride? Some misguided sense of honor." Maya looked at her manager, really looked at him. Zek had been with her from the beginning, taking a percentage of her winnings, but also genuinely caring about her welfare. He'd negotiated better medical coverage, arranged for proper nutrition supplements, and even helped her learn the cultural nuances that kept her from accidentally insulting the wrong alien. "Zek," she said gently, "how many other humans are fighting in arenas across Thackeray space?" "I don't see what that has to do with." "How many?" The Pishian's antenna twitched. "Current estimates suggest approximately 3,000 active human gladiators, with more being recruited every month." "And how many have ever earned their freedom?" Silence. "That's what I thought." Maya returned her attention to the combat footage. "The system is designed to keep us here, fighting and dying for entertainment. Even if I earn enough credits to buy my freedom, they'll just find excuses to delay or deny the transaction. But if I beat Raktal in front of the entire empire, you'll be dead," Zek finished. "Maybe. Or maybe I'll prove that humans are more than just clever animals. Maybe I'll show them that we're actually dangerous." Maya spent the next 2 days in intensive preparation. She studied the Grand Coliseum's layout, memorizing every entrance, exit, and environmental hazard. She practiced combat techniques she hadn't used since her military days, movements designed to exploit the specific vulnerabilities of heavily armored opponents. Most importantly, she worked on her mindset. Raktal expected her to be afraid, to fight desperately and make mistakes. He was counting on her human emotions to override her tactical thinking. That was his first mistake. Maya had learned a long time ago that fear was just another tool, something to be controlled and directed rather than overcome. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of living the rest of her life as a slave, and that fear was going to make her very, very dangerous. On the morning of the fight, transport ships arrived to take Maya and her small entourage to Thractos Prime. The journey would take most of the day, giving her time to finalize her preparations. As the ship lifted off from the arena planet, Maya watched the surface fall away beneath them. Somewhere down there, other human gladiators were preparing for their own fights, unaware that their fate might be decided in the next few hours. Maya smiled grimly and began to sharpen her blade. The real fight was about to begin. The Grand Colosseum of Thractos Prime made every other arena Maya had seen look like a child's playground. The structure rose from the planet's surface like a metallic mountain, its walls carved with the histories of 10,000 battles. Inside, the arena floor was a perfect circle of polished stone, surrounded by tiers of seating that could hold 1,000,000 spectators. Today, every seat was filled. Maya stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena, listening to the roar of the crowd above. Through the reinforced viewing ports, she could see Thraccari nobility in their finest ceremonial armor, military commanders with their battle scars on display, and representatives from dozens of species that had fallen under the Empire's rule. They were all here to watch her die. "The betting odds are not encouraging," Zek reported, his antenna drooping with despair. 500 to 1 against you. Some bookmakers aren't even taking bets anymore." "Good," Maya replied, adjusting the straps on her lightweight armor. "That means they're not expecting me to win." "That's because you're not going to win." Zek's voice cracked. "Lord Vractal has killed beings twice your size. He has military-grade cybernetics. He's been training for combat since before you were born." Maya looked at her manager with something approaching fondness. "Zek, do you know what my job was before I became a gladiator?" "You said you were a military instructor." "That's right. And do you know what I taught?" The Pishin shook his head. "I taught soldiers how to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and better equipped than they were." Maya picked up her weapon, a simple but well-balanced blade that she'd been using since her first arena fight. "I taught them that in real combat, size and strength don't matter nearly as much as speed, timing, and the ability to think 3 moves ahead." "But this isn't a classroom exercise, Maya. This is life and death." "No, Zek. This is war. And I'm very good at war." The chamber's communication system crackled to life. "Gladiator Chen, you have 5 minutes until presentation." Maya stood and walked to the mirror mounted on one wall. The woman looking back at her was lean and scarred, with the kind of weathered features that came from months of brutal combat. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical knot, and her eyes held the cold focus of a professional killer. She looked dangerous. "Good. Maya," Zek said quietly, "if you don't survive this, I want you to know that managing your career has been the honor of my lifetime. You've shown the galaxy what humans are capable of." Maya turned from the mirror and gave the little alien a smile that was surprisingly warm. "Thanks, Zek, but I'm not planning on dying today. Gladiator Chen, you're called." The floor began to rise, lifting Maya up through the chamber's ceiling and into the arena proper. As she emerged into the light, the crowd's roar became deafening. 1,000,000 voices cheering, jeering, and placing last-minute bets on her imminent demise. Maya raised her blade in acknowledgement, playing the part they expected. The human champion, brave but doomed, putting on a good show before the inevitable end. Across the arena, another platform was rising. Lord Vractal emerged into view like some ancient war god, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming in the artificial sunlight. He carried a traditional Thraccari war staff, a weapon that could extend into a spear or collapse into a heavy club. His secondary arms held a pair of curved fighting blades that looked like they'd been forged from liquid shadow. The crowd's cheers reached a new crescendo. This was what they'd come to see: the ultimate predator of their species facing down a clever, but ultimately inferior opponent. It was natural order made manifest, the strong devouring the weak in the most entertaining way possible. Maya walked to the center of the arena, her steps measured and calm. Vractal approached from the opposite side, his 4 arms moving in perfect coordination. When they were 10 meters apart, both combatants stopped. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the Colosseum. "Citizens of the Thraccari Empire, today you witness a contest that will be remembered for generations. In the challenger's corner, representing the conquered species of Earth, we have Maya Chen. 47 victories, 0 defeats, and the distinction of being the first human to survive more than 6 months in active gladiatorial competition. Polite applause mixed with some alien equivalents of boos. In the champion's corner, Lord Vractal of the Northern Territories. 17 arena titles, veteran of the Kelvin War, conqueror of the Pitian Rebellion, and personal champion to His Imperial Majesty. The crowd went wild. Maya tuned out the noise and focused on her opponent. Vractal was studying her with the same clinical attention she'd seen in his combat footage. He was looking for weaknesses, tells, anything that would give him an advantage in the coming fight. What he saw was a human female, approximately 60 kilograms, armed with a single blade and wearing minimal armor. She looked calm, almost relaxed. To Thackeray eyes, she probably seemed pathetically unprepared. Perfect. The rules are simple, the announcer continued. Combat continues until one participant yields or dies. No outside interference will be tolerated. Combatants, prepare yourselves. Maya shifted her grip on her weapon and centered her breathing. Around her, the arena floor began to change. Obstacles rose from hidden mechanisms, pillars, platforms, and barriers that would add tactical complexity to the fight. The Grand Coliseum was famous for its dynamic battlefield configurations. This is your last chance to yield with honor, Vractal called across the distance between them. His voice carried easily in the arena's acoustic design. I bear you no personal animosity. Human, you have fought well for your species. Thanks for the offer, Maya replied, loud enough for the crowd to hear. But I think I'll stick around and see how this plays out. Vractal's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. As you wish. Know that your death will be swift. Oh, I'm counting on it, Maya said. The question is whose? The arena fell silent. 1 million spectators held their breath. The starting horn sounded. Vractal moved first, closing the distance between them with surprising speed for something his size. His war staff extended a full spear configuration as he charged, aiming to end the fight with a single overwhelming thrust. Maya waited until the last possible second, then threw herself sideways and rolled behind one of the arena's pillars. The spear point struck stone and sent sparks flying. Running already? Vractal taunted, pulling his weapon free. I expected more from Earth's champion. Maya didn't bother responding. She was too busy moving, using the arena's obstacles to stay one step ahead of her opponent's attacks. Vractal was fast, but he was also predictable. Every assault followed standard Thackeray doctrine. Locate the enemy, close to effective range. Apply overwhelming force. It was exactly what Maya had been hoping for. She led him on a chase around the arena floor, always staying just out of reach. To the crowd, it probably looked like cowardice. Maya didn't care what they thought. She was learning. Vractal favored his right side when attacking. His cybernetic enhancements made him overconfident in close combat. Most importantly, he was starting to get frustrated with her refusal to engage on his terms. After 3 minutes of fruitless pursuit, the alien lord stopped and addressed the crowd. Behold the courage of humanity, he declared, his voice dripping with contempt. Their champion prefers flight to fight. The crowd booed and jeered. Maya used the distraction to position herself near one of the arena's raised platforms. You want to fight? She called back. Come and get one. Vractal's eyes narrowed. He collapsed his war staff into club configuration and drew both of his curved blades. With a weapon in each of his 4 hands, he looked like some mythical demon of war. He charged again, this time with obvious intent to corner her against the arena wall. Maya waited until he was committed to his attack, then did something no Thackeray warrior would ever expect. She ran straight at him. The collision was spectacular. Maya's blade met Vractal's center weapon in a shower of sparks, but instead of trying to match his strength, she used his own momentum against him. She pivoted at the last second, grabbed his extended arm, and executed a perfect judo throw that sent all 200 kilograms of alien warrior flying through the air. Vractal hit the ground hard but rolled to his feet with practiced grace. For the first time since the fight began, he looked genuinely surprised. Interesting, he said. You do know some tricks after all. That wasn't a trick, Maya replied, circling slowly. That was a warning. They engaged again, this time more cautiously. Vracto had learned to respect his opponent's unconventional tactics, while Maya had confirmed her theory about Thackeray combat psychology. They were used to fighting enemies who met strength with strength. They didn't know how to handle an opponent who turned their own power against them. The fight continued for another 10 minutes, neither combatant able to gain a decisive advantage. Vracto's reach and strength were formidable, but Maya's speed and unpredictability kept her alive. She scored several minor cuts on his arms and legs, while his weapons left shallow gashes across her armor. To the crowd, it was the most entertaining fight they'd seen in years. A human was actually holding her own against a Thackeray champion, something that should have been impossible. But Maya knew she was fighting a losing battle. Her opponent's cybernetic enhancements meant he could maintain his current pace indefinitely, while she was already starting to tire. If she was going to win, it had to be soon. That's when Vracto made his mistake. Overconfident from his superior endurance, the alien lord attempted a complex combination attack that left his center mass exposed for a split second. Maya saw the opening and took it, diving inside his guard with her blade aimed at his heart. Vracto caught her wrist with one of his secondary hands, stopping the thrust just centimeters from his chest. His grip was like a mechanical vice, and Maya felt the bones in her arm beginning to crack under pressure. Clever, he admitted, but not clever enough. He began to pull her closer, intending to finish the fight with his other weapons. The crowd sensed the end approaching and rose to their feet in anticipation. Maya looked up at her opponent's scarred face and smiled. "You're right," she said. "That wasn't clever enough." With her free hand, she triggered the concealed mechanism in her blade's hilt. The weapon split along pre-designed fracture lines, breaking into 3 separate pieces connected by nearly invisible monomolecular wire. Before Vracto could react, Maya whipped the improvised flail around his arm and pulled. The monomolecular wire sliced through his cybernetic enhancements like they were made of paper, severing the connections that powered his augmented strength. Suddenly, it was just flesh against flesh. Maya twisted free of his weakened grip and drove her knee into his solar plexus. As Vracto doubled over, gasping for air, she wrapped the weapon's wire around his throat. "Here's the thing about David and Goliath," she whispered in his ear as she tightened the noose. "Everyone remembers the stone. Nobody talks about David's skill with a sling, or the fact that he'd been using it to kill predators since he was a child. They just see a lucky shot." Vracto clawed at the wire around his throat, his mandibles clicking in distress. His cybernetic arms spasmed as their power systems failed. "You made the same mistake," Maya continued. "You saw a primitive human with a simple blade. You didn't see a weapon designed specifically to kill things like you." The alien lord's struggles were growing weaker. Around them, the arena had fallen completely silent. 1,000,000 spectators watched in stunned disbelief as their champion was slowly strangled by a member of what they considered an inferior species. "Do you yield?" Maya asked, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Vracto's response was barely a whisper. "I yield." Maya released the wire and stepped back. Vracto collapsed to his knees, gasping for air and clutching his throat. His cybernetic enhancements sparked and smoked where the monomolecular wire had severed their connections. The arena remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. A human had defeated a Thackeray champion. In single combat, in front of the entire empire. Maya walked to the center of the arena and raised her reconstructed blade above her head. Her voice carried clearly in the perfect acoustics of the Colosseum. "Citizens of the Thackeray Empire," she called out, "you came here today expecting to watch me die. Instead, you've learned something important about humanity. We don't just survive your games. We win them." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered, impressed by the spectacular upset. Others sat in stunned silence, processing the implications of what they'd witnessed. Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. "Lord Vracto has honored his agreement. I claim my freedom, and the freedom of every human gladiator in your empire. We're not your pets. We're not your entertainment. We're your equals, and it's time you started treating us that way." In the VIP section, she could see Thackeray nobles conferring urgently among themselves. The political implications of this moment would ripple across the empire for years to come. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today, Maya Chen had won her freedom and proven that humans belonged among the galaxy's warrior species. As she walked toward the arena exit, she passed the still kneeling form of Lord Vractal. The alien lord looked up at her with something that might have been respect. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you know my enhancements could be disabled?" Maya paused and looked down at him. "Because I studied you. Every fight, every technique, every weakness. You expected me to be afraid, to make mistakes, to fight like a desperate animal. But I'm not an animal, Lord Vractal. I'm a soldier, and soldiers win wars by thinking." She resumed walking, leaving the defeated champion behind. At the arena exit, Zek was waiting with tears of joy streaming down his face. "You did it," he whispered. "You actually did it." "We did it," Maya corrected. Every human in every arena across the Empire just got a little bit freer today. As they walked to the corridors beneath the Grand Colosseum, Maya could hear the crowd above still processing what they'd witnessed. Some were angry, some confused, but many were cheering. The galaxy had just learned that humanity was more than a collection of clever primitives. They were a species to be reckoned with. Maya smiled and began planning her next move. She had a feeling that her fighting days were far from over. But now, at least, she'd be fighting on her own terms. The real victory wasn't defeating Vractal. It was showing the galaxy that humans refuse to stay down when knocked to their knees. They got up, adapted, and found a way to win. And that, Maya thought as she walked toward her new life, was the most human thing of all.